we have many coaches at St. Ed's, my high school, and one of them was the women's Olympic coach a couple years before, and he had ties to WWE. He knew Gerald Briscoe. They had wrestled in college together, and he goes, I'm not going to do some favors, but I can take you to a show and I can introduce you to some people, and if they see anything in you, maybe you'll get a tryout one day. And he took me to Monday Night Raw in Cleveland, and we had great seats.
Oh my God, it's your hometown.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I got to go backstage and meet some people. And they go, yeah, kid, one of these days, maybe, in a year or two, we'll have you for a tryout. I go, okay, great. And 3 days later, I had a phone call to go to Ohio Valley Wrestling for a tryout. Yeah, it was very, very exciting.
Oh, wow. And how was that when you got into OVW?
It was my first tryout was with Bobby Lashley. And,
no way!
Yeah, and I didn't know him at all, but he's an amateur wrestler, much better one than I am. But we met at like the rental car place, and I go, hey, are you Bobby? He goes, yeah, you Nick? Great. So we had a tryout together, and it's the damnedest thing. They decided to hire him and not me. And I go, the whole time I'm sitting there looking at him, I go, I mean, if we're picking here, I'd pick to hire you also. I just finished wrestling 165 at Kent State, and he looked like he's carved out of granite like an action figure. I go, do we have to do the whole week? I'd pick you to stay too. And he goes, hey, it's the weirdest. I got hired. I go, yeah, I know. I did not. But they told me, they go, see if you can put on some weight and get some practice somewhere. So I was taking powdered milk and mixing it with 2% milk and trying to drink it every 2.5 hours.
Seriously?
Just trying to put on a couple pounds. I was really lean I cut a bunch of weight in high school and college, and I was really lean, and I was trying to be a little bit bigger and maybe be almost 200 pounds or something. And I think I just constantly had my stomach sticking out, and it was not worth it for the extra 4 pounds or whatever. And then about 3-4 months later, they like, hey, have you been getting practice? And I said, yep, absolutely. And I lied to them because I was not. I didn't know where to go, but I found someone who was actually at one point in OVW, but now was coaching at Cleveland State in Cleveland where I was. So he rolled around with me a little bit, and we tied up. And I told him that I had been practicing for weeks and months with this guy, but we just kind of rolled around once or twice. But being such a nerd for wrestling and loving everything about it, and watching it, and going to my high school and taking flat back bumps just on the regular wrestling mats. Right. Because I read in Mick Foley's book that he had jumped over his car and landed on the ground a bunch of times to toughen up his back. So I was taking these bumps on a 1-inch hard rubber mat, just to, maybe I'd be tough and be able to jump up. And it was a bad idea.
I was just going to say, was that a good idea?
Very, very bad idea.
Don't try this at home.
There was 12 half golf balls in my back. But when I went for my tryout, the second time, Lance Storm was there. He had just started teaching, and
Lance, love him.
He's great. He was I was a teacher's pet because I was a fan of his, and I wanted to learn, and I was trying to catch up to everybody because I had not done any independents or anything. I had just been a fan, so I tried to learn everything I could.
So Lance actually mentored you?
Yeah, very much. He had just my first day, not that tryout, but when I got hired, my first day was his first day as the coach, I think, and he had just taken over. So I was a fan. I watched ECW as a kid, and I watched him and everything else. And I was the teacher's pet every time he needed a volunteer or something. I was like, I'll do it. Or I was just trying to catch up because I know people had been wrestling for years, and they were trying to get contracts with WWE, and all I had done is wrestle in college and been a fan. So I wanted to learn 3 years of stuff in 6 months if I could. So I was going to extra practices with Mike Mondo, who ended up being in the Spirit Squad with me. He was teaching there, and he wasn't even under contract yet, but he was teaching because he knew the fundamentals and the basics so well. So he would teach me in the mornings, and then we'd go to class that we had to be, and then at night I would go to Rip Rogers' class. So I was doing 3 classes a day just to try and catch up to everybody and wanted to be good. So. Yeah.
So when you had that, you say it's just a few months between your tryouts, was there that time of doubt?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, very much. Because I saw Bobby, and I go, well, if everyone looks like that, I have no chance of ever doing this. And I was hoping, I go, well, I have some credentials from college. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm a fan. I go, maybe that would all help and work out together. So in that second tryout, I wasn't next to and being compared to a bodybuilder the entire time. So, and also I was taking the drills and getting up first and picking up them much quicker. I go, that's where I can kind of focus when you're a guy who's barely 6 foot tall, barely 200 pounds. you go, oh, okay, I can make up for every single other aspect of this business. So I was practicing promos, I was doing the drills, I wanted to look like I'd been doing this for 5 years.
I love that. So you took a different angle.
Yeah, I go, I'm going to take every angle but looking like a bodybuilder and take everything else I can and try and be A pluses in that and then get a, D minus in being a bodybuilder or whatever.
That's what they say is you got to find your strengths. And you find your own strengths and you really focus on those and they will come out and be powerful, make a difference.